Hey everybody, wake up. This is Wake Up with Mark Joyner, episode number 100. And today I will ask the question, should I keep doing these or should I cap it off at 100? All right, so it's been 100 of these so far. And before I ask the question, well, actually, let me just ask this right out. I'm going to tell you guys a few of the things that I've learned along the way of doing this. But first, let me ask you, should I keep doing these videos? And if yes, what would you like to see different? I have not really been very strategic about the way I do this. My whole idea was I'm just going to wake up every morning and turn the camera on. And if I hesitate and start thinking about what I'm going to say, I'm just going to go, nope. And I just hit the record and play buttons and just go live. And that's it. Usually I have a mild notion of what I'm going to talk about, as I write the title out. But that happens between, me walking off the deck after I do my morning sunrise routine, right up to this point here where I'm walking over here, setting all the cameras up and turning everything on and just boom, getting ready to go. That is the extent of the thought I put into these things. The idea was to make myself better and better at speaking impromptu in front of the camera. I've always been a good impromptu speaker. I've been able to, get called on the stage in front of audiences of any size. This last weekend got called on the stage, in front of a small group about, maybe about 60, 70 people. But I've been called on the stage in front of 5,000 people before without any preparation, and I have no problem doing that. But it's a little bit different on video because there's going to be a record and there's not an audience. There's not the live audience feedback to vibe off of. Now, I used to have these comments going up here, but that Restream app, the little widget that they have that shows the comments, is not... it's not very good, actually, frankly, and it wasn't giving me the kind of feedback that I need. Maybe there's a way I can tweak that where I can get some live feedback from you guys and I can vibe with you. That is another interesting way to do these things, and that is why I find live public speaking in front of a live audience so much easier. Now, some of the things I've learned here is that doing this has sort of forced me to do a number of things. If I don't do these videos, people send in messages and they complain, which is nice, right? It's good. It forces me to get back on track with it. If for whatever reason I falter, and that's usually because I've traveled somewhere and it's hard for me to shoot the video while I am traveling, or I've just gotten back from traveling and it messed my body up and I need a little bit of extra rest or something like that. Another thing that it has done, it has forced me to be more and more impeccable with my habits because I have to report to you guys what I'm doing from time to time. And you can see the mood I am in when I wake up. If I wake up and I'm looking grumpy and tired, I'm not exactly the guy you want to be talking to or listening to, telling you how to wake up in the morning. Now, am I? So I have got to be a good example. Now, I've had a good routine for a long time, but it is not always 100% consistent. Doing this has forced me to be more consistent about it, and it has forced me to be more impromptu and spontaneous on live video, which was really the general intent. Now, if I'm going to keep doing this, I need to be a little bit more strategic about it because this hasn't really turned into a massive groundswell in 100 episodes, but that was never really the intention. However, with a little bit of careful thought and planning, that could happen. Right. So one thing I'm not doing is I'm not taking advantage of tagging and titling and using a lot of the search engine juice that I could be. I'm getting way more engagement from this on my personal Facebook page and on my individual Facebook fan page than I am on any of the YouTube channels. We're not getting really much viewership on the YouTube channels. Well, that's because I haven't really pumped those YouTube channels up that much. And again, these titles are probably not the thing that is going to get a lot of traction and juice in the search engines. So that's something that I would want to do moving forward if I'm really going to turn this into something that is going to be a large thing. Now I could just keep doing it and speak to whatever audience is there and do it for my own personal benefit, let the chips fall where they may, and see who follows along and who doesn't. But if I'm going to take the time to do it, maybe I should put the time into it to make it even more strategic and larger. So I would love to hear from you guys, from anybody watching. I don't think I will be here from anybody not watching, but for those of you watching, what would you like to see? Do you have any ideas for things I can do in these videos that you think would make them better, would make it more viral, that would make it more interesting, that would make you more compelled to watch on a day-to-day basis? Usually it's me getting up and expounding on a few things that just happen to be on my mind in the moment, and me just rolling the dice and seeing if that sticks with you. Some days I hit a 7, sometimes it's snake eyes, right? Some days I get a lot of response on these videos, and some days I don't. So that's basically it. Another thing that I have learned from this is that there is an intrinsic value in being able to speak impromptu with people and to not care about the small details, right? I'll teach you a little something about this. Most people, when they speak, are wrapped up in their head. They're like, am I using the right words? Did I say that right? What is everyone thinking about me? And when you do that, you're going to lose big time on stage. Now I'm a guy who used to be very, very fearful of public speaking when I was younger. Even in my 20s, when I had to, do some of my first public speaking in front of military audiences, I was trembling like a leaf. And then what I did was I used some visualization to shift the picture in my head of how I perceived that stuff. That was the first thing that I learned that got me able to start getting in front of audiences and not really care so much. So how would I do that? I would visualize that, I am there confident, that I am not trembling, and I would reframe nervousness as excitement. I wish I could credit who I learned that from originally, but that is a pretty classic speaker's trick. If you feel nervous, reframe it in your mind as excitement, and sure enough, you can trick your brain into being excited rather than nervous. And visualizing this, seeing this in your mind is very important. So one thing I like to do when I do live public speaking, if I have time to plan, if I'm not getting called on stage impromptu, this happens very often, I will get on the stage and I will stand there where I would be standing while I'm speaking, and I will burn that image into my head. And the night before I go to sleep, I will imagine the audience out there all responding well, and I will imagine myself speaking with confidence and enthusiasm and the passion required to get the message across to people. Now, the next thing here that you want to know, if you are going to become a public speaker and you want to overcome the problems that most people have with public speaking. And by the way, there are these statistics where they say that public speaking is more feared than death. Who knows where they get these numbers? But it makes a little bit of sense, actually, if you think about it. There are people out there who are terrified of it. And why would that make sense? Why would we fear public speaking more than death? Because we fear judgment from the crowd. And it's this tribal mechanism in people's minds that kicks in. I believe that, before we were in civilization, we were probably, hanging around in very, very small tribes, and getting kicked out of a tribe really meant a death sentence for people, because you couldn't survive in the wild without a tribe, because there are lions and tigers and bears out there that are going to hunt you down and eat you. So another way to overcome this fear is to think about what it is that you are trying to say to people, rather than thinking about how you are saying it. Rather than getting wrapped up about, hey, what are they thinking? Think instead, I have this intention of causing this effect in people, and my emotional state is going to be stronger than yours. If you think like that, you no longer think about how are they reacting? That puts the control in their hands. Okay, if you're thinking about that. If, however, you think, I don't care what you're thinking, I'm going to make you feel this state, that puts all of the control in your hands. And if you combine that with not caring about the details, about the exact phraseology that you're using while you speak, you're going to get up there and you're going to knock it out of the park most of the time, because people are going to remember how they made you feel. This is another, self-help truism I have heard. I believe it comes from the NLP community. People are more likely to remember how you made them feel than what it is specifically that you said. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I want to hear some feedback from y'all. Should I keep doing this? Should I cap it off at 100? You tell me, and I would love to hear your feedback. And maybe I will talk to y'all tomorrow. We'll see. Depends on what you guys say.